can't really lift heavy things, resistant bands are actually considered safe.
Yeah.
So resistant bands are a really good form of exercise.
Absolutely. Great words there. Great knowledge. So this has been awesome so far. Lots of information being shared. If you're watching us by YouTube, please drop a comment and let us know you're here. We would love to talk with you, interact with you, ask a question. If you have a question for Jonathan, we'll throw it up on the screen. Jonathan will, please don't ask for his phone number or anything.
Social media, you can follow me. I'm there. Send me a message.
But no, seriously. So what you're on YouTube right now as a YouTube creator? You're creating some really cool content over there. What's the reasons why that you're creating these videos, and what's the purpose of what you're doing over there?
Good question. So it's mostly, again, as I was saying earlier, resources. When a person gets diagnosed, they have their own diabetes, dialysis. My mind's still on diabetes. Dialysis, right? The first thing that goes through your mind usually is, am I going to be here permanently or not? And then after you're told, okay, this is for life until you get a kidney transplant. Then what? So then you don't know what food is good and bad. So yes, right. Dietitians, we work in dialysis. We give packed.
Welcome to Hope with Jonathan. I'm Jonathan Traylor, kidney transplant recipient. Based on my near-death experience with kidney failure, we now spotlight kidney patients' story, giving them a platform to express their personal journey with battling kidney disease, kidney failure, dialysis, waiting for kidney transplant, and much more. We share stories of hope right here on the Hope with Jonathan podcast. Hope with Jonathan podcast is a Hope Media production. Never let hope become a memory. Hope with Jonathan podcast is a Hope Media production.
Jonathan, really appreciate you coming on. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, again, thanks, Jonathan, for having me. It's an honor, honestly, Jonathan to Jonathan. So,
it's the Jonathan and Jonathan show tonight.
So I'm Jonathan Diaz. I'm a dietitian, and I've been practicing with patients with diabetes since 2015, but I got my license 2014. So I'm a pretty young dietitian, still learning a lot. And first it was diabetes, and now the last almost 5 years now, it's going to be patients on dialysis. Didn't see myself going in this direction. I was more interested in diabetes, and I decided to try this out, and I fell in love with it. And it's only because of the lack of awareness, not because people don't know. It's just, actually that is the problem, but it's the doctors don't really educate people on it. Obviously, doctors, I don't want to bash on them.
Sure.
But because I respect a few of them. The only issue is that since their workplaces become very numbers driven, they have to see patients within 5-10 minutes, then the next patient, right? So they don't have time to educate. So their resources is lacking. But it's honestly, it's a lack of awareness. So that's why I'm on social media now. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, just because I have family members that are actually on dialysis or have kidney damage, and they weren't aware of it until I asked them, because I started working in this field. Mm-hmm. And I have a few friends asking me too, like, hey, what's the kidney level? Or what's the lab, which is the EGFR. So no, I have definitely been enjoying this a lot more than I thought. Just because I don't want people to end up on dialysis. That's the goal. I don't want people ending up on here. And if they do, let's prolong it, right? So if they're going to end up at age 60, let's prolong it till 80, not at 60. So they have 20 more years left without going to be on dialysis. So it's possible. It's very possible.
Absolutely.
So diet
Absolutely.
is
Diet plays a huge part.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a little bit of backstory for me. My first 40 years of life, I wasn't so conscious of diet, and it took me a long time to learn that diet and exercise were huge, essential parts of healthy living. And unfortunately, it took a toll on me, and I ended up crashing into dialysis, and I had a near-death experience and the whole nine. And I'm sure you've seen those type of stories before where people, are not living a healthy lifestyle and end up crashing into dialysis or, end up in a near-death experience with kidney failure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's heartbreaking to see that.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. It's like, I didn't understand you. And it's because, again, no one brought it to your attention and to many others. And I hear constantly the clinic I work in the city of Linwood, out there, a lot of them, they tell me, oh, my doctor says it's temporary, and then we see that they're actually chronic and it's permanent.
Yeah,
and then they have every right to be upset because they weren't guided. It's the guidance that's missing and the resources.
Yeah, when I first came to out of the ICU, they were using words like AKI, acute kidney injury. And then after they realized that dialysis wasn't going to bring my kidneys back, then they changed me to ESRD, which is end stage renal, stage 5.
Yeah.
So it was like, and I was like, oh, there is a hope maybe that my kidneys may come back with the AKI, but then no, I'm sorry, we got to change it to ESRD. Yeah. And I was like, okay. But yeah, it was literally for me, it was like being hit by a Mack truck, literally. Because I didn't have any prior education on it, Jonathan. I didn't have any education at all on dialysis or transplant or kidney disease. And there's more to this on my story on my end, that I wasn't exactly doing everything that I needed to be doing to take care of myself. But I really truly believe that there is a lack of education out there for people.
Yeah. When I was a diabetes educator, back in, actually, when I was working in San Antonio, Texas, I worked for Tex Diabetes Institute. It was beautiful job. I mean, I was in the news. I was helping. I was in health screening events over the weekend. It was just bringing awareness about diabetes and prediabetes, and their clinics. I was their educator too, so I took the initiative to see these patients that were waiting in the lobby before they had to see their doctor. And the doctors allowed me to talk to them in the patient waiting room, and I educated them. Hey, look, your eGFR is at 30. Do you know what that means? And then some of them broke down, but it's because I brought that to the awareness, and I most likely prolonged their diagnosis of end-stage renal. Again, but they weren't there for that. They were there for a headache or something that they just give a pill for. So, yeah,
absolutely. So you had already mentioned, because one of my questions was, what was your interest and stuff, and it sounded like what brought you into the category or the career of being a dietitian is because you mentioned that you had family members who had been on dialysis. Were they like immediate family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, or who in your family was possibly a heavily influence on you to want to go in that direction?
So this actually was even before family got affected.
Okay.
It was before. The whole dialysis thing happened during 2020, during pandemic, when they found out that the kidneys were bad. So actually it wasn't until after the fact. So when I was working in dialysis, it was more of a need to look for a job, coming back from Texas to California. And I thought, give dialysis a shot. I'm an open-minded person. Let's try new things. Diet is diet, no matter where it goes. And as you know, dialysis diet is really confusing because one day you hear it's good, one day you hear that food is bad, and now you don't know what you can eat, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But honestly, it's resources. It's resources.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember when they came in and started educating me. It was literally crazy. They were like, "No, you can't have cheese anymore, and you can't have potatoes anymore." And I was like, "What?" Like, oh man, you're killing me. Just take me out back and just put me out of my misery now. But yeah, later on, I realized though, after being educated and talking with a dietitian, much like yourself, I realized that it was more about what your labs were saying and it was kind of learning how to balance how much and how much intake of those type of foods that you could really take intake and yet your body can handle depending upon your stage of kidney disease.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and then being on dialysis, diet is definitely vital, as you would know. For one reason, obviously, to feel better.
Mhm.
Uh, there's a lot of good reasons to eat well, and also being very careful. For one, your labs have to be within range or a good range, especially if one on dialysis wants a kidney transplant. The kidney transplants, they want to see specific labs and they meet the criteria. And they're going to
Sure.
look at the dietitian notes, the social worker notes, the doctor notes, the nurse's notes to see if the patient on dialysis is actually taking their meds, are the labs good or bad. And that can be a deciding factor of getting a kidney or not, because that shows, okay, is this
Oh
person
yeah.
disciplined enough to take the meds when they do get the kidneys? So,
Oh, they
um,
know. They know. They
yeah.
know. They know if you're even looking at a slice of pizza or not, because it's gonna reveal yourself in the lab work. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And no one can be perfect. It's just there's like
No,
tips and tricks, tips and tricks.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some of the reasons, Jonathan, that we should be managing our diet if we're on dialysis?
Okay. For one, for sure, dietitians, like, we definitely look at your guys' appetite. If it's bad appetite, that's an issue, because on dialysis, yes, the blood is getting clean, but it's not a perfect process. What happens
Mhm.
is, not only do you take out the toxins, but you're also losing protein. And it's about 10 grams of protein. So that's like about half a chicken's worth of protein being cleaned out of your system, because that's the process. It happens. And also, you lose some water soluble vitamins, so the B vitamins and the and vitamin C. So that's lost in the process. So if you're not eating, so if a patient's not eating, and then they come in every 3 days a week and we clean their blood and they're still not eating, we're in a way malnourishing them. So it's important to eat. It's so important, because eventually
Yeah.
the lack of appetite will kick in, and then it gets worse. So
Yeah, you
making
can't just
sure,
stop eating, right? I mean, the
yeah,
body has to have some sort of fuel to continue to go on. But when you have kidney failure and they throw all these medical terminology and diet stuff, you immediately think, man, I can't eat anymore. But that's not true. You have to eat, right?
you have to. Yes, you have to. Now, that's number one, is patients should be eating food, because if not, they'll get worse. So that's the one thing we definitely push for. And then second, yeah, we start looking over the sugars, the A1C, if that's an issue, and of course
Hmm.
the protein, albumin. You probably heard, oh, your protein's good or bad from your dietitians, and that's the albumin marker. So we look
Yeah.
at that.
Was it HDL and LDL?
That is actually lipid. That's the
Oh, the lipid.
fats.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So if your dietitian talks to you about that, that's really good. That's
Mhm.
really detailed. But I have a conversation with a doctor about the HDL, which is good cholesterol, and
Mhm.
LDL, which is the bad one.
Yep.
Um, the problem with those labs, is that when we draw patient labs, like their
Mm.
blood, we don't have them fasting, or they don't know when we're going to draw in labs. So those labs are inaccurate for the cholesterol. So it may show up high, but it's
Yeah.
because they probably had pastry. So then
Yeah.
it's inaccurate. So we don't go based off those numbers. And I just got told that 2 weeks ago by the doctor. And it never occurred to me that that's right. That can definitely affect cholesterol.
Well, let me ask you this, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but is high cholesterol a precursor of kidney disease?
Good question. No, not directly. From what I've
Hmm.
seen and read, that's actually a really good question. It's not. Um, what would be a precursor is what many of you have heard, protein, in the urine, or creatinine,
Right.
right, in the blood,
Yeah. Right.
and a GFR. GFR is the number one. Lab result. Always tell everyone to get checked, even if the doctor
Sure.
says why. Just charge it. I want to see what my kidney level is.
Right.
Interesting fact, actually, after the age of 40, we start losing kidney function. No matter how healthy the person is, you can be athletic, you can be Michael Phelps, the kidney starts to age and we start losing kidney function. Now, it doesn't mean you end up on dialysis. And what progresses there makes it worse is high blood pressure, high blood sugars, cholesterol, bad cholesterol. Not per se. No, not directly that. So
I believe it's anything above 40%. They wanted to keep the kidney above that as long as they can, and then after that, that's when they really start getting a little anxious about where you're at with that. Is that true?
yeah, that's when I believe metformin. So those who have diabetes, metformin is the pill usually. Those who get it when they get diabetes and they get diagnosed recently, they get metformin. Now, metformin has been shown to affect the kidneys, not too much, but it does. Yep. And then after the kidneys below 40% or 35, they keep changing it. I think it's 35 now. A doctor has to stop that medication because it's making the kidneys work really hard to get rid of it. So metformin is no longer required. And actually, I always push for insulin. I know insulin sucks, but now they made smaller neodals so that you don't feel it anymore. And insulin is way, way better than any pill out there, in my opinion.
I was actually, I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I actually was abusing metformin before kidney failure. And what I mean by abusing was I would eat I knew it was a high in sugar meal. And so then I would take extra metformin to try to resolve that. And I truly believe that metformin played a huge part in my early on kidney disease. And I refuse to take it. And I do think that it is effective. But like you said, that's one of the first drugs that they want to give you when you get, newly diagnosed with diabetes. Is that word comes up, usually metformin or maybe like glipizide or glucotrol or one of them as well. But I'm actually what I'm taking right now, just to let you know, I'm taking one called Tradjenta, which is, it's so far it was actually recommended by my transplant team, but so far so good. I mean, it seems to be helping me. So
hey, if it works for you and you have your A1C, was it below? Actually, it should be below 7%, but since you received the kidney transplant, so 7.5%.
I'm around a 6. A1C is around a 6. So
whoa, man, you should brag about that, bro. Congratulations. That's tough. You got it.
Yeah. Well, exercise, man. I'm telling you, exercise. Get that blood flowing, get a good sweat going, and for sure, it really is beneficial for me when it comes to diabetes regulation of sugars. So.
Yes, it does. The exercise does help with lowering the blood sugar. Mm-hmm. The reason why, if you want to know, those who are watching have diabetes and are on dialysis, exercise, insulin, what it does, insulin acts like a key, opens up the cell in your body, so the cell takes in the sugar, and it uses it either as energy or stores it as fat. And then maybe just muscle, but mostly just stores it as fat or uses it as energy. That's it. Now, exercise does the exact same thing without insulin. In a way, exercise actually makes the cells open up without insulin, and it takes up the sugar from your blood, thus using it as energy or turning into fat. That's the basic, simplest way to say exercise does help with actually feeling even better. So,
yeah. I tell you, if I stay in, I don't feel as good as after maybe I went out and did a walk or went to the gym. And, I can just tell the way my body feels, the way my body reacts to it. And it's the after effect. During the exercise, you're pushing your body and you're like, oh man, this sucks. I want to quit. But, and then you work through that and you get to the end. And then later on, after my exercise, it's a euphoria. I feel this relaxation and my body just feels, but I feel totally different if I don't do that. If I don't have that feeling or do that exercise regimen, I don't feel as good, so my brain tells me, it starts kicking my butt. It's like, you need to be doing something. And usually it's a walk or going to the gym or doing something, riding my bike. And so,
and I do encourage now, since we're on the topic of exercise, I know for some patients with dialysis, it's going to be tough, especially if they're bed bound or if they're wheelchair bound.
Absolutely.
And I see that being an issue, a big time issue, but there are ideas So for those who are wheelchair bound or like they can't really move too much, there are the hand pedals. They sell them at Walmart or Dick's Sporting Goods where they put it on the table and you can just spin. That's considered movement exercise.
Sure.
You know, so
Yeah, anything to get the heart rate up, right?
anything. Resistant bands. I love resistant bands.
Yep.
Definitely encourage those for those on dialysis. I know since you guys can't, especially those on dialysis with the fistula, they can't, or with a PD cath, they can't really lift heavy things. Resistant bands are actually considered safe. So
Yeah.
resistant bands are a really good form of exercise.
Absolutely. Great, great words there. Great knowledge. So this has been awesome so far. A lot of information being shared. If you're watching us by YouTube, please drop a comment and let us know you're here. We would love to talk with you, interact with you, ask a question. If you have a question for Jonathan, we'll throw it up on the screen. Jonathan will, please don't ask for his phone number or anything.
Social media, you can follow me. I'm there. Send me a message.
But no, seriously. So what you're on YouTube right now as a YouTube creator? You're creating some really cool content over there. What's the reasons why that you're creating these videos, and what's the purpose of what you're doing over there?
Good question. So it's mostly, again, as I was saying earlier, resources. When a person gets diagnosed, they're on diabetes, dialysis. My mind's still on diabetes. Dialysis, right? The first thing that goes through your mind usually is, am I going to be here permanently or not? And then after you're told, okay, this is for life until you get a kidney transplant. Then what? So then you don't know what food is good and bad. So yes, dietitians, we work in dialysis. We give packets of food that are good and bad. Hospitals are really good at giving you packets. They're like, here's a book, and we want you to, go study the dialysis diet. But it's just words. It's just freaking words, right? So, okay. So at least the resources, but they're not really 100% helpful. And in this day and age, people are very busy in and out. They're probably working 2-3 jobs, right? So to sit and look at that and make sense of everything it's kind of exhausting. So the purpose of my YouTube channel and TikTok now, for TikTok mostly for like little health tips now.
Sure.
YouTube is actually recipes and maybe some tips here and there. Recipes, because yes, there are websites like the DaVita, Fresenius. There's a Canadian, website that has dialysis recipes as well, and they're great. I like them. I tried a few out. They're not that bad. The only problem is, someone randomly posts a recipe and you're gambling if it's good or bad, right? So you buy these recipes, the ingredients for the recipe, and turns out to be nasty, or the portions turns out to be this tiny because they calculated and they realized, okay, this dish is dialysis friendly if you eat this much. And it's like, come on, that's an appetizer. That's not a meal. So what I do on YouTube is I do post videos. The actual serving size is like a cup to 2 cups, depending on what the dish is. And they're realistic. They are definitely flavorful. I try to aim for fresh vegetables because I have learned from other chefs. If you go for fresh, you're guaranteed to have a better tasting dish than if it was to be like microwaved or just dried seasoning rubs. So, and I love cooking. Since I was a kid, I've always had my grandparents around and my parents, and I was spoiled. I'm not gonna lie. They cooked every day. So I was surrounded by that. I was encouraged and it was motivating. So yeah, clearly, I mean, there's my kitchen. So I mean, I love cooking, and it's Hell's Kitchen on Sunday there.
Yeah.
So,
well, for those of you out there that haven't checked out that YouTube channel, you need to go over there and check it out and watch his videos. He's got some great videos over there, and look like some pretty simple meals that you can make. I know when I was on dialysis, it became very mundane. I was starting to eat the same meals like almost every night, and so you got to learn how to mix it up a little bit and figure it out and stay kidney friendly. And so Jonathan's got some great stuff over there. You guys need to go check it out. Hit that subscribe button. Like you said, he's also over there on TikTok as well. He's talking about different waters that you should be drinking. Why don't we talk a little bit about that really quickly? What got you interested in possibly talking about the types of waters that are out there?
So it 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 was kind of like I was enlightened. It was another word for it. But it just struck me like, okay, so one day I was just going through just random ingredients, right?
Yeah.
And I realized, okay, I'm cooking these dishes and I'm reading labels more than ever before. I have read them, but not for sodium or potassium or phosphorus. That wasn't my issue, my focus. And now that I've been cooking on this channel, I have just zoned in on products and looking at their labels. And I realized, as dietitians in the clinic, we say, oh yeah, when patients ask us, can we have bread? We say yes. If you have diabetes, just be careful with your sugar, but we say yes. Problem with saying yes to that, there's so many different types of bread. Some are higher in salt than others.
Yep.
So we're right and then we're wrong.
Yeah.
So now I'm realizing I have to put emphasis on which products are good. Because if I don't, it's going to be an issue. Because I say use mustard, but which one? Some are high salt and some are low salt.
Yeah.
And if someone tries a random mustard and then they come in with fluid overloading, they're edemic, swollen. It's like, well, I just had a dish Jonathan told me to cook, and he told me to use all these products, but I wasn't specific.
Yeah.
So falling back to the water now, there are some waters that, patients ask, can we have water? Sure. Which ones? We don't ask that question. That's our dietitian. Sometimes we forget to ask, like, which one are you looking at? And we have to look at the label.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to assume all of them are good.
Yeah, all of them are just water, right?
Yeah.
But you prove that some of them are adding additives like sodium, potassium, different things like that. So it's definitely worth your time to check out the label, for sure.
Yeah. Actually, people brought up two good things that I did post. It's good and they are good. Someone said, "Well, Aquafina. Aquafina is acidic. Why are you promoting this?" And I said, "That's a really freaking good question." Okay, so Aquafina is still water. Doesn't have phosphorus. Doesn't have sodium, and doesn't have potassium. That's all I'm focusing on. So now acidic. Well, I mean, do you not have lime? Lime is super acidic. Some people have tomatoes. That's really acidic, even though you're not supposed to in dialysis. You know what? Some people are imperfect. Come on, who doesn't want tomatoes? They're delicious, right? So tomatoes are just as acidic. The same with tangerines and limes. They're actually much more acidic than Aquafina. But again, people are asking good questions. I know I've been meaning to reply back, but I've been trying to think of a way to say it where it still comes back. It comes responding. What is this? Evidence based, not just my opinion, but like this is the actual facts.
No, that's great. That way you have something to fall back on, and you're not just giving your personal opinion. So
I don't take anything personal. So if someone says, "Hey, well, why are you recommending that?" I said, "Well, let me explain why." And then there was another one, the Topo Chico. They're saying that I think there was parts per million that's like a contaminated water. So I had to look into that. I did find some stuff on Google, but again, I don't fully trust Google because people can post random things that make it seem authentic, and it's not. I have to look into it. Into it, but it's a low sodium, no phosphorus, no potassium drink, so it's still considered safe.
You had mentioned that you were in San Antonio for a bit. I'm actually 1 hour of San Antonio, so I'm in San Antonio all the time. And I'm in Texas, so the Topo Chico is a popular drink around here. Supposedly it's a cure for a hangover. I'm not sure. I heard that through the grapevine that a lot of people that go out drinking on a Saturday night, they drink their Topo on a Sunday. But anyway,
very popular.
But
I'm thinking,
you were mentioning about looking at labels and those type of things. When I got diagnosed, I literally was in the grocery store for about an hour or two looking at labels and things like that. And it was surprising the things that I found out that I was eating, even if I wasn't a kidney patient, right? I shouldn't be eating this stuff because of what was in it. I mean, who in their right mind needs to eat something that has like 60 ingredients in it that's in a little can or in a bag, right? I mean, these are foods that we shouldn't be eating anyway.
And then there are a lot of processed foods that I question, like, all right, is this even healthy? Yeah, so it just comes down to the person, honestly. Like if the person, if like let's say they're at 30% kidney function, well, what caused the damage to get to that point? Was it high blood pressure, high blood sugar, smoking, abuse of alcohol, drugs, and whatever the underlying issue is, that should be addressed. Because I
Sure.
understand, you know, because there are people, there are doctors, I don't know if they're real doctors, but they're pushing herbal teas and medicines. Like, okay, that can help the kidneys, maybe, I'm not sure. But what is the underlying issue? What is actually causing the kidney damage? Fix that first, and then add your remedies after. But some want to just add remedies on top of the problem that's still there.
Yeah.
So first find out what's the problem to the kidney damage, get rid of that or manage it, and then you can add like the herbal things that you guys believe in, like what is the tea or anything. I don't know. There's a lot of things out there I'm not aware of yet. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. You know, find the root, the source of the issue, and resolve that before you try to do some sort of medicinal type of remedy.
Yeah, for those
So,
like who are not on dialysis. Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of those around, and people fall for
Yes.
those because they're desperate, you know. And
I agree.
only you know dialysis patients well because you work with them. But you know, when you are a dialysis patient, you reach a point where you just kind of grasping for any hope at all, and there's a feeling of disparity, and
Yes.
and you feel alone, and you're like, oh man. And then when somebody comes along and is offering a product that says, hey, this will fix you right up, then they fall for it and they pay for it. And you know, but it happens, right,
It
Jonathan? It
does.
happens.
It does, and that's why I'm using social media to try to put a stop on those things. I think someone left a comment on one of my earlier videos when I first started, or I don't know where, but I deleted. I said this is blasphemy. Like they're just saying that they can reverse kidney function or kidney damage. If that was true, this wouldn't be dialysis. If that was very
Exactly.
true, and
Exactly.
it's and I hate to shoot down people's hopes, but you have to know the truth. Because if you're living the lie, then you're just gonna keep
Yeah.
believing in this lie. You have to know what's the truth, and then once you know it,
Yeah.
you gotta handle, it, you gotta manage it, and then find the people that can help you get through it.
Yeah.
You know what? I was blown away by Facebook groups. All the dialysis patients that are on these
Oh,
Facebook groups. It's like I love that everyone there's venting. Everyone's 100% just authentically raw. They're like, I
yeah.
hate dialysis. Like, I see you. I get it. It sucks.
Yeah.
And then some of them express grief. I think it's a great place, a support group for those on dialysis. It's great.
Sure.
It's really good.
It is, but you know what the downfall is on that is where people go in those groups and they ask for medical advice or things, and sometimes I see a lot of misinformed information and
Yes.
bad informed information,
Yeah.
and I cringe sometimes at some of the stuff that I read, but you know I don't want to get involved in it because you know it's just it's like it's a drama, you know. So I'm like, I'm gonna stay out of that. But you know, some of the stuff that I see, I'm just like, oh wow, that is totally wrong. It's totally
Hey,
false.
and yeah, and that's why like if I see it, I try to get in and jump in, but there's so many things being posted, I miss it. So if you see it, you let me know. Like I don't mind bringing awareness on the
Yeah,
truth because there are those who definitely feed off of the weak or those who are uninformed. I can't say weak,
yeah,
uninformed. They don't know that what's real and what isn't real, what's true and what's
yeah,
not true.
yeah.
And yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, and then they rip them off with fake medication and yeah. So
So let's talk about foods because we've literally we know that people are going to cheat and have a
right,
meal every now and again. I mean, let's just be
yes,
real. We're not perfect.
no one,
People have cravings, and we like to eat certain foods even though they're not good for us. So, we all do it from
right,
time to time. But these are supposed to be sometimes food, not everyday foods, right?
yes,
That's why
yes.
we call them a treat. But what kind of foods or dishes would you recommend that dialysis patients, especially like early diagnosed dialysis patients, what kind of foods would you recommend them to start eating?
So it comes down to preference. But usually I try for them to cut back on high salt foods in general. So whether it's like frozen foods, cheese, cut back on the cheese. There's actually there's some vegan cheeses out there. There's one that I like because they actually even boast on their website that they're dialysis friendly, and it's Daya. I've been
Uh-huh.
promoting some other things through my videos actually. Daya vegan cheese. It actually melts. There are other cheeses out there as well. I haven't looked at their products and done a comparison, but by far Daya is the one I've been enjoying the most and promoting to patients. I actually had one patient that she was, I think, was a 7 point something phosphorus, and within a month to 2 months after suggesting the switch to the vegan one, she dropped to like 3. There's other factors. It's not just the cheese, but it definitely did help lower her phosphorus tremendously.
Sure.
It was mind blowing for me. I said I knew it was going to lower it, but it lowered it a lot because that's
That's
how much cheese
awesome.
she was having. She was having a lot of just was it cottage cheese and Swiss cheese and a few other cheeses. She was having too much of it, and so yeah, I did the vegan one, and she loves it. Another idea would be instead of oranges, tangerines.
Okay.
Tangerines, definitely they'll come back on the protein. So if the person likes eggs, you've heard it: eggs, fish, beef, pork, lamb, veal. So those are completely fine. So, but number one is duh. Thank you for asking me. I just remembered. For a person who wasn't on dialysis and they knew they had kidney damage, they're on a low protein diet, right?
Right.
When they're on dialysis, it switches. Now it's higher protein,
That's
way
right.
higher.
Yep.
So that's the one. That's the one thing I need to focus on with every patient. Every dialysis dietitian should, and we all know it already, is to emphasize. Okay, you're no longer on a protein restriction. You're actually on a liberal protein diet. You can have protein. You can have it
Sure.
at every meal. It's definitely a must.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
why is protein important? I know the answer, but for the people watching, why is protein important after your kidneys fail?
Okay. Well, definitely the protein is actually good for your immune system. So most of our skin, our cells, it's all made out of protein. Our immune system, protein. So that is like the building block of everything in our
Mhm.
bodies. And on top of that, remember, you on dialysis, a dialysis patient loses 10 grams of protein, about 10 grams of protein per treatment. So that's in a week. If they do 3 days a week, that's 30. That's like the chicken breast and a half of the
Mm.
we took out of protein. So
Wow.
it's definitely needed.
Yeah. So and protein, it also feeds your muscles and things like that. And a lot of kidney patients that are on dialysis face like muscle wasting and things like that, and the breaking down of their muscles. So protein is definitely a vital important part of your diet after you face kidney failure and are on dialysis.
Yes, yeah, it is definitely vital. If you don't know what your protein labs or proteins are, ask your
Hmm.
dietitian what's my albumin or protein. They'll tell
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
4.0 or greater is the goal.
Yeah, I
4.0.
remember in a dialysis center they would bring out these little cups for some of the patients, and they would drink the little shot of protein.
Protein.
And I remember they would talk about the different flavors and stuff. I was pumping the protein. I would eat like steak and pork chops and all this chicken, and they said my protein was good, so I didn't have to do the protein bars or the shots. But a lot of the patients, you would see them taking like the little shots of whatever, and then or eat the protein bars. So chocolate, I think chocolate was a hit because they would always ask for the chocolate protein bars. So
Because they know they can't have it. Yes, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's not recommended. I mean, you can have whatever you want. The York mint chocolate, those are considered low phosphorus, low potassium. So
Yeah.
once in a while with that one. Definitely though,
Yeah.
for sure, take your phosphorus binders, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't miss taking those. I took a lot of those. I was on what was I on the calcium? Was a calcium acetate and
Yeah.
there was another one that I was taking as well. Uh, Shoot, I should know this. It's been 2 years since I've taken them. It's
And
the one that helps with the when you have too much calcium. What's this one called?
so, you probably forgot because you don't want to remember it. So, and that's fine. It's the Velamir probably or Renbella.
Renvela. Renvela. That's
Yeah.
it. So I was popping Renvelas and calcium acetate at every meal. And when I say popping them, I had like a handful, and I was just throwing them in. So true, true,
Yeah.
true story, Jonathan. True story. I went in the line and drove through the pharmacy at my ATB. Okay, I have an ATB here in
TV.
yeah, ATB. And
Yeah.
the pharmacist said, "Hold on a second. I'll have to bring out your medication in a paper sack. I'll be right back." She comes out with a grocery sack of pills. I believe it was the calcium acetate and my Renbella, all in that sack. And I'm sure everybody in behind me in that line was wondering, what in the world is this guy on? She just brought him a stack of medication. It was literally my phosphorus binders is all it was. But uh,
It's a lot of pills. It's ridiculous. They're big.
yeah, they are. They literally are. So I do not miss those one bit. Shout out to my donor and my donor family, man, because it literally changed my life. Getting a kidney transplant and got me off of dialysis and having to endure, all the little side things that you have to endure and go through when you're on dialysis. It is a lot. It definitely is a lot.
Yeah, I feel it. I see it. I'm super empathetic to everyone on the chair.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if one of them or any of them having a bad day, I don't take it personal because when I see it, like it's a reality that like life is like it's very precious, and those on the chair do what they can to preserve whatever life they have left.
Yeah.
Um, and it's very like uh humbling to see like okay, like my worries are nothing, or for anyone else, like if they were to see that, like people, because I know no one goes around the bus stop or on the street showing their fistulas like, hey, look, I'm on dialysis. Like no one does that. So it's a reality people don't know until they end up in that chair in that center and they see there's like 30, 40 other people with them.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those realities like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
my problems are nothing and I'm just here for
Yeah.
them. So if they give me attitude, I get it. They're having a bad day. I don't take it personal. No one
Yeah.
should that works with them. So
Well, that's awesome, man. Because believe me, you have your good days, you have your bad days. I was really blessed. The people that worked in my Davita locally here. I live in a small town outside of Kerrville, or outside of San Antonio. It's in the hill country called Kerrville. Um,
yes.
yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful town. Has a lot of hills and valleys, and it's a gorgeous town. But there's some really nice and good people here that worked at my Davita, and they were really in great spirits every time I went in there to work, and or when I went in there to work, whenever went in there to get my dialysis treatment, and they were much. I had one or two dialysis technicians, much like yourself, that were always trying to uplift your spirit or have these little positive talks with you, or trying to get you transplant ready or keep you transplant ready, in case you got the call. And it was great, man. I tell you, for your, for my spirit and for my mood and everything. It affected me so much in a positive way. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, you're right, and it's important also because the team do contribute to the patient's well-being.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you
the
guys, you
patient.
guys become like family, literally.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I see those on dialysis more than I see my family. 100%. So true.
Mm,
So true.
yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
And it's key for us to be respectful. Every staff to be respectful for patients. Some I get they're just are like really rude for no reason, but we have to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jonathan, listen, our show is all about hope. We are all about sharing a message of hope to patients out there, trying to uplift, just like what we're talking about. And I wondered if maybe you had a message of hope for like newly diagnosed kidney patients, dialysis patients. If maybe you had some words of encouragement or maybe a message of hope that you would want to share with them to maybe, uplift their spirits.
yeah, definitely. Definitely, it's not the end. It is not the end of life. It's not. It might seem like it, but it's not. Especially if you're choosing this way, you're choosing to live longer because you want to be around with your family, with your grandkids, for your children, and your children's children. So don't lose hope. You can definitely get kidney transplant for sure. Talk to your social workers right away and your dietitians. Like, get on top of it. And if you have family, get them involved. That's the one thing that will make you like feel way better. So when you have the family involved and they understand what's going on. What makes it more difficult is when the family does not understand, and then they start cooking whatever they want and they expect that you can eat it too. So my message for all you guys is don't lose hope. Get the family involved, pump them up if you can, and make sure that they're encouraging for you too. But definitely you can definitely get kidney transplant. Anyone can get it. And that comes down to the age. Either way, the social worker and the doctor will look into that, but don't lose hope. Believe me, I've seen, I personally, I saw a patient that he's like 75, 76, he's in his 70s. He got a kidney transplant. And he got that last, or 2 years ago. Yeah. And we thought he wasn't going to qualify. He qualified.
Wow.
So
that's great.
Don't lose hope. Age won't be a big factor. But your lab and your adherence and compliance to everything is. So listen to your team, trust them, and trust in yourself. And if you have a cheat day, come an extra day. That's what I always say. Come an extra treatment day if you need it, if you feel bad, if you feel sick. But yeah, so just don't lose hope in yourself. I mean, I'm there at the clinic Monday through Friday. And I chose the location in Linwood. I can be anywhere. I can be in Beverly Hills. I can be at the Beach City, a dialysis center. But no, I put myself in an area where I know I'm needed the most. Because like, again, it's humbling to see that there are others who need help, and I want to be there for those who need the help, who don't have the resources. So, but I'm there for you guys all the way. And if you don't have it in your clinic, search me up on YouTube and on TikTok. I'll find ways to make you smile and put really good recipes, guaranteed.
Oh man, Jonathan, that's awesome, man. You are definitely an inspiration and just a great source for kidney patients out there, a great mentor. And I really appreciate you coming on our show today and sharing some great information. And, I hope people will go check out your YouTube channel at Jonathan Diaz. Cooking videos for dialysis. Dialysis approved, guys.
Dialysis approved. Dialysis approved. That's right. That name came by accident.
Really?
It was like, yeah. It came by accident. I said, oh wow, this sounds great, and that's it. It's my channel name and my TikTok. Yeah.
Yep. So check him out as well on TikTok. Anywhere else? Are you on? I'm sure you're on Facebook. Where else are you?
So Facebook, that one I believe is Dialysis Approved. Is my name. It might be my name. And then Instagram too. So on TikTok, there's like a little Instagram button. You click on there, and then that pops up my Instagram account. I'm working on marketing myself right now because that's what wasn't easily found or discoverable on social media because I was only posting on YouTube every Friday. Up until March of this year, I decided to change it up. I post every other Friday. And the Fridays that I don't post a recipe, I actually post promotional stuff on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Facebook. So those on Dialysis can find me because I'm not easy to find right now. Now I'm getting more popular. I've got about like almost 20,000 views. So now the algorithm for the social media platforms are pushing out my content, and I make it specific dialysis. If I'm not specific, I won't pop up in anyone's social media unless I put I am focused on dialysis and diet. So it's getting there. Now that you saw me this year, it's amazing. It's just cool that I saw the statistics. I have people from the Philippines, from the United Kingdom, from Spain, from Argentina watching my videos. It's one of my dreams come true to help people outside of where I work, and I'm helping people outside like the country. It's beautiful, man.
Sure. So you already got one that's going to look you up on Facebook or TikTok. Jared Brown, Warriors Quest Show. So look for him on TikTok as well. And he's making noise on TikTok as well for the kidney disease, chronic illness community. So he's got a podcast as well. So check him out. He's going to follow you on TikTok. So I'm sure you'll follow him back and likewise. So, but you know what, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Any shout outs you want to give to anybody before we close out the show?
Shout outs. Just to my dialysis family, honestly. Don't lose hope, guys. I mean, I have family, I have my friends. I mean, I wouldn't be here without anybody. Specifically though to my unit in Linwood. So I mean, shout out to all you guys. You guys were my inspiration. It took me 3.5 to 4 years to finally get behind the camera and click record, and they were my inspiration to do it. So yeah, I just everyone on Dialysis.
Yeah, same for me, because if you'd have told me a couple years ago that you'd have a podcast and you'd be doing, all these things where kidney advocacy, I would have just laughed at you, literally. But the experience, the experience of kidney failure brought out this person, and it changed me, literally. And it changed me for the better, literally. And so I'm actually grateful. I experienced kidney failure. I know it sounds weird, but I'm grateful for it. So
yeah, it's a whole new point of like euphoria. Like, okay, like I'm still alive, and yeah, it's just, it changes your perspective. You have to go through it. You have to go through that storm, to see the other side. Like, oh wow, it's a rainbow and it's beautiful on this other side. So yeah, but I get you, man. The passion, the drive is there. Yes.
Yeah, I truly believe God let me survive to help other people. And this is my calling, to help inspire other people utilizing my story. I just couldn't go away after surviving a near-death experience. I couldn't go crawl in a hole somewhere and never share my experience. Somebody out there can benefit from my story, seeing the fact that I'm thriving and I'm doing well, and you can survive this. And a lot of patients don't feel that way, but we want to inspire those that are feeling like they can't make it, and let them know that you can survive this, and there is a better life out there for you. You just gotta go through the process. I call it. It's a process, and unfortunately, sometimes change is painful. But once you get on the other end of that, and you go through the change, it's a beautiful thing. And like you said, you see life in a whole different perspective, and the little things matter. They start to matter. The flowers, and the birds chirping, and the wind blowing, and things that you never paid attention to before. You start to see those things in life, and like I said, it's a beautiful awakening. So.
It is awakening. It is, yeah. It's like a diamond, right? Diamonds only made under pressure. So if you're a diamond, it's because you were made under pressure. So yeah.
Yeah. And now we're shining. We're shining in this community.
So bright, so bright, so bright.
But listen again, Jonathan, man, I really appreciate you coming on, and I'd love to have you back again. And I'm sure some others maybe might reach out to you to want to interview you as well. So really appreciate it, man.
Of course, and thanks for having me. Just let me know when, and I don't mind talking. I love talking to those on Dialysis and helping everybody out. I want to be a resource. That's what I want to be. So I need to make myself more available to social media platforms. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Hey, you guys take care out there, and love on everyone. Share love, and definitely take care of your kidneys. God bless. This is Jonathan. Y'all take care. Jonathan and Jonathan out.
Bye. Jonathan and Jonathan.
Hey guys, have you been over to hopewithjonathan.com? You can actually listen to the audio podcast, watch live streaming interviews, purchase merch to help support Hope with Jonathan podcast, read blogs, and much, much more. For more information on this, go check out hopewithjonathan.com, where we share stories of hope.